two connecting points to Russia. The Slavic character, actually three. The Slavic character, the Cyrillic alphabet, and the Orthodox religion. Okay? The Serbs, they're going to be a big, big player as we tell this story. Next one, and you can see it identified. This map is kind of interesting because they kind of do two different things here. Actually, no, this is not too bad. The green area, those are going to be called Bosniaks. Sometimes when you read the thing, they're referred to as Bosnian Muslims. I'll refer to them probably as both. Bosniaks, they're Slavic, and they converted to Islam. As we get to the history, during the time of the Turkish rule, they will convert to Islam, and they will maintain an Islamic identity. The Bosniaks. They're going to be among three different groups of people that we're going to be talking about as we tell this story that are Muslim. Got that? Three different groups. Bosniaks, Kosovar, and Albanian. And it's weird because as we tell this story, there's going to be a point in time in world history, in spite of what some trends are, that sometimes people look and go, oh, Muslims around the world, they hate us because, we're always taking the side of Israel and all these various different wars, and the Muslims are mad at us, yada, yada, yada. There's going to be some Muslims in that part of the world that eventually are going to go, woohoo, we like the United States of America. Because we will intervene on behalf of protecting the lives of Muslims who are being attacked by a larger group in the fight. No. This is there's Slovenes, there's Croatians or Croats. Yeah, well, I'm going to go through all the different Muslim groups, okay? The first one I introduced was Bosniaks. And those are going to be predominantly located in Bosnia. All right, this chunk right here in the middle. They don't even think they have that much access because the Croats pretty much took the whole coast. I mean, sorry, But they're kind of in the middle there. All right? You got that? Next one. Let's look at Muslim Kosovars. When we finish up this particular aspect of the unit, we're going to end up talking about this region right here. Dark purple. That is a very sensitive region. Important historical events took place there. As far as, in fact, you can write this down. Perhaps the most important historical event for the Serbs took place in Kosovo. And yet, Kosovo is populated almost entirely by non-Serb people called Kosovars. And they are Muslim. Do you understand that? That's going to be a little bit of an issue as we go forward here. Because there will be some Serbs who will look at this and go, you know what? Not all Serbs, but for a while, enough of them, and key leaders are going to look and go, Kosovo should be populated entirely by Serbs. Let's clear out all the Muslim Kosovars. Let's clear them out. No. Kosovars are Muslim. Serbs are what? Orthodox. Who? Bosniaks, or Islam. Kosovars had converted to Islam way back, I want to say like 500 or 600 years or so ago, maybe even more. Okay? And then there's another group of people. Let's go ahead and identify this. Yeah, let's go ahead and identify. As long as we're talking about Muslims, and they're actually not in Yugoslavia, go ahead and write it down. Albania. Albania. It's a separate country, and it has been for a long, long time. It's important to talk about Albania because they're going to be the biggest friends and supporters of fellow Muslims in Kosovo. Okay? As well as Bosniaks. Albanians are Muslim. Separate country. And when you look at, like, during the Cold War, whose side of the Cold War were Albania on? They were communist, and they were, depending on which time period you looked at, they either were like friends of the Soviet Union, or more to the end, they were friends of the Chinese Communist government. So they weren't necessarily part of the Warsaw Pact, certainly not entirely. Yeah. I want to say, and the Germanic one may be the Slovenes a little bit, but pretty much for the most part, they're going to be Slavic. So there's a lot of Slavic components in there, but the distinction is going to come primarily within the religious aspect. All right, you want some more? You're like, no, there's too many characters. Look, if you're going to have a Shakespeare play or something like that, you need to have a lot of characters. I don't know. Let's go to the Montenegrins. Oh my gosh, seriously? The Montenegrins. Right here. Montenegro. The Montenegrins. Do you see where they are on the map? I'll point it out again. And do you see it on your map? The Montenegrins. They're going to be part of Yugoslavia. And they will eventually have their own country called Montenegro. Oh, look, here it is. Montenegro, Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Albania, FYR, Macedonia. I think they've actually changed their name since that flag came out. Anyway, Montenegrins, also Slavic, and Orthodox. Okay? Okay? So this is going to be one that's kind of like, do you want to stay with Serbia and be part of the same country and so forth? I don't know. We're not really fighting with each other so much, but we'll just go. So it is going to be separate. All right? Next one. Macedonians. Got it? Right here on the southernmost part of Yugoslavia. Do you see the Macedonians? Now, they're not going to be predominantly Slavic. They are Greek. They're Greek. And guess what religion?
Catholic.
Nope. Orthodox. This is going to be a little bit problematic because if you look at historically, Macedonia, there is an area in Greece that is Macedonian. So the Greeks were like, they didn't really want it to be called Macedonia as a separate country, so they insisted that it be called the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, which is a real mouthful. I think they actually finally chilled out, and they called it like North. That's it. It is now referred to as North Macedonia. So we're South Macedonia. Well, it's part of Greece. Is there any famous people that ever came from Macedonia?
Yeah.
Who?
I don't know.
Yeah, Alexander the Great. And his father, Philip, conquered Greece, therefore unifying the Greeks. And then his son, Alexander, I don't know if his dad was knocked off, but anyway, whatever. Alexander is the most famous because he's like, hey, Greeks, Macedonians, let's go kick some Persians. Persians. That's right. Defeat the Persians. So, Macedonia, we don't end up spending a lot of time talking about them during this particular unit because they're not going to be involved in a lot of the findings, but let's just notice where they are. They're going to get their own separate country called Macedonia. Have we left anybody out? There actually is one other group of people that live there, and we're not going to be talking too much about them, just like the Twa in Rwanda.
Roma?
There's a group of people. The Roma. Who are the Roma? Gypsies. The Gypsies. The Roma. The Gypsies live throughout various different areas in Europe. You don't have to go too far to find Gypsies. They are a very migratory group of people. A lot of local populations are a little bit suspect of Gypsies because Gypsies look around, they're like, ooh, I spotted you. Did you run into some Gypsies? Some Roma in Italy? Ah, there you go. So if you see, this is an international language of beware of pickpockets. Because when I was in Italy with groups of students and so forth, they were on a public subway or a public bus or whatever, they're going, hey, look over there. Because you can get on all the public transportation for free. And so some of those folks will supplement their income by pickpocketing vulnerable, silly American tourists who are not very watchful of the belongings. Anyway, so, have a heart because it's hard to be a gypsy or Roma in any part, because other people are like, what are you doing here? And we live in Europe. Well, anyway, Hitler, that was one of the groups of people he rounded up, as well as Jews and so forth, and had killed as many as he could. Are the Roma going to be playing a big a role in the story as we tell here? No, but a lot of them are going to be living in that area amongst and so forth. It's not real good when you have people looking around going, I'm going to stick with mine and we're going to kill you and get rid of you. Because the Roma usually end up on the losing end of any kind of calculation that involves getting you out. Roma? That's a good question, to be honest. I think if you looked at the religious origins, I think it would even go back and even predate the arrival of Christianity. I think if you looked at, I don't know, I'm not giving you like the final authoritative answer, but I don't see them as distinctly like having an established church with a structure and so forth. So I think there's a little bit more kind of, old traditional kinds of things. Okay? All right. Have we got everyone aligned there? The primary language group is Serbo-Croat. Yeah. Oh, Kosovars are not Slavs. Albanians are not Slavs either. Okay, sorry. Kosovars aren't Slavs. Albanians aren't Slavs. Nor the Greeks, Macedonians, and so forth. They're not Slavic people. Okay? All right. With the stage is set. Are we ready for some action? Let's bring on the action. The action starts with the conquest of Southeast Europe by the Ottoman Turkish Empire. Okay? The Ottoman Turkish Empire, which I don't think you covered in the 9th grade, did you? We got a little bit of that when we got into leading up to World War I, but by the time we got up to World War I, the Ottoman Turkish Empire was referred to as the old sick man of Europe. But once upon a time, they were great. They were big. They were powerful. They took on Constantinople with their big guns, their Turkish cannons that broke down the walls of Constantinople. And the Turks came flooding in, and they converted the city which had been the center of the old Eastern Roman Empire. And Orthodox Christianity, Greek Orthodox Christianity, they converted it to Istanbul. And Istanbul was the capital of the Ottoman Turkish Empire. And they conquered North Africa. They conquered areas of the Middle East. And they conquered significantly Southeast Europe. So write this down. They will conquer into the area of play. The entire area that we are going to be talking about as we go forward here will be conquered by the Ottoman Turks. Will there be resistance? Of course there will. That's precious. Where did you learn that? I don't know. Anyway. So here we go. It's a dance song, is it? Okay. So here we go. The area that we've been looking at right here is going to be conquered by the Turks. Who is going to put up a significant fight and lose to the Turks? The Serbs. Write this down. Here we go. The Serbs are going to put up a fight. You're going to have a Serbian kingdom. This is significant. 1389. And dates are very important. 1389. Okay? In 1389, there will be a critical battle that will take place, on June 28th. 1389. June 28, 1389. So for Serbs, June 28th, 1389 is a very important date. And it is commemorated. June 28th is a very important date for Serbs. Don't be smack-talking Serbs on June 28th. Okay? Because what happened on that date? The Serb armies were defeated by the Turkish armies. They put up a fight. They put up a fight in an area known as the Field of Blackbirds. The Battle of the Field of Blackbirds. They're like, I don't know, there's a battle going on here. What's there? I don't know if the Blackbirds were there before the battle. Oh, I just thought of that. That's kind of nasty. Maybe the Blackbirds congregated after the battle. Uh-oh is right, yeah, for a little feast. It's also known as Kosovo, I'm not even pronouncing this right, Polje, Polje maybe. It's in Kosovo. I've got it on the handout. You see that? Fourth line down, Battle of the Field of Blackbirds. There. Polje. Okay? Field. Yeah, there we go. So this important battle for the Serbs that they lost occurred geographically in a region that is going to be known as Kosovo. Ultimately, if you go to Kosovo, what is going to be the primary population group there? Kosovars. Are they Serb? No. Are they Orthodox? No. They're Muslim. So after the Turks had conquered, in fact, let's back it up here. I mean, check this out. As far as Europe is concerned, the history of Europe, the Turks were a pretty serious threat. They almost took Vienna, the capital of the Austrian Empire. That was the high watermark of the Turkish incursions into Europe. And they held control for many years of Southeast Europe, including all of the areas that we're going to be referring to here, and including the Battle of the Field of Blackbirds. So why is it important to the Serbs? Because they did a fight. I don't know, it's kind of like in America. Have you guys spent any time in Texas? If you were to talk to somebody in Texas and talk about, like, I don't know, is there a battle that just like resonates in the history of Texans as like, man, they fought, and they fought. Don't forget, remember the Alamo. Was the Alamo, the Battle of the Alamo, a big victory for the Texans? No, they were completely annihilated. I mean, everyone who was there, as I understood, died. Maybe there was one or two survivors and so forth. The large Mexican army, Santa Anna, was crushing this little Texan independence thing. I mean, ultimately, the Texans won. But the point is, in their history, in their mind, that battle, where they fought, where they took a stand, it matters a great deal. If you're a Spartan, the Battle of Thermopylae, have you guys ever heard of the Battle of Thermopylae? Have you ever watched the movie The 300? Right? It was almost like, yeah, have you seen that? It's like there's 300 Spartans, and they go up against all these Persians, and they're fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. They kill so many Persians, they ultimately lose. But it is, like, huge. You don't go to Texas on the anniversary of the Alamo, go up to a Texan and go, ha, loser. No, in some respects, right, it's like if you're in athletics, which games sometimes resonate the most in your mind? I'll give you a choice, the easy victory or the one you barely lost. And you look back on that and you're like, if we had just had more, if we had had more people, if we'd been able to do this, if I hadn't screwed up on that pass, because you don't get so many opportunities. For the Serbs, make sure you write this down. The anniversary of the Field of Blackbirds, the Battle of the Field of Blackbirds, is huge for the Serbs. When June 28th comes around on the calendar, you remember it. And when you're controlled by Turks all over the place, you're like, someday, Turks, pow, to the moon. So the Turks dominate that whole area. But, Julian, what were three groups of people that were more accommodating to the rule of the Turks? In particular, they adopted the Turkish preferred religion of Islam. I've given you all three of them. Which three groups of people were like?
Okay, so we've got Bosnia was one of them.
Bosniaks,
Kosovo,
Kosovars,
and Albania.
and Albanians. Very good. Okay? So literally the people who populate predominantly the area around the battlefield convert. You know, and what do you feel about somebody that converted? Do you feel like they're a traitor, or do you feel like they got the right message? Depending on who you talk to. If you talk to Serbs and you ask them about Kosovars or Bosniaks or Albanians, the fact that they converted to Islam, you might hear from some of the Serbs, oh, you sellouts. If you ask those people themselves, you're like, hey, you know, we found the right way. That's their particular view of it. And goes, oh, you just want to get to the front of the line. It's like if you're in Russia, if you join the Communist Party. Why did you join the Communist Party? Because you believe in communism, or is it because you want to have a better spot within the communist-dominated society. Why did Oskar Schindler join the Nazi Party in Germany? Because he hated Jews? No! Why did he? Exactly. He wanted to make money. You're like, hey, I'm a Nazi Party member. Hey, let's make a contract, and so forth and so on. That's what he did. Okay? I mean, what was his greater loyalty to? His workers or the Nazi Party, ultimately? His workers. That's right. His workers. Exactly. And he took great risks to do that. So the Turks dominate that region for many years, but write this down. You ready? They lose their grip by the 1800s. They're losing their grip of Southeast Europe by the end of the 1800s. Write this down because we're going to be going pretty quick here. The first area that they lose that becomes independent, you ready? Greece in 1830. Greece will gain independence in 1830. The Turks can't hold on to it. The Greeks are like, we want independence. And they get support from various different European countries who support Greek independence, and you will have a Greek independent country in 1830. That's the first one. Got that? Greece, 1830. The next one, Serbia, 1878. Serbia becomes independent in 1878. Now, it's interesting because the Serbs look over and they're like, hey, not all Serbs are free from Turkish rule. Not all Serbs are part of Serbia. Because they look beyond, I just remind you, the boundary of the original Serbia was pretty similar to that. And they're looking beyond and going, we have many Serbs that are living in governments under different people, and they should be ultimately part of the same country, which will be called Yugoslavia. Is that going to work out? Not necessarily. Yes? 1878. Okay. Next one, Bulgaria. Bulgaria, right here, 1908. Okay. They don't factor as much in the story as we're playing here, but this is like another example of a group of people who will be able to fight off the Turks and gain their independence. Got that? Okay. 1908. And I'm doing them a little bit out of turn. Sorry, I should have mentioned Romania. They gain independence in 1878. So we got Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, Greece. Now, complicating issues, because not all people that have been ruled by Turks are going to get separate independent status. Complicating issues, you can see by this map, who ends up taking from the Turks Slovenia, Croatia, and Bosnia. The Austrian Empire, or the Austro-Hungarian Empire, whichever we want to refer to it as. That's right. And Bulgaria, 1908. And by 1878, Austria had gained control of Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia. No, this is like origins. This is all origins. You know, we spend a lot of time on origins so that by the time we get to a conflict, you're like, okay, I know what all the pieces are, and I can sort of like see how that's going to play out. Okay? (1912–1913). What is referred to as the Balkan Wars. 1912–1913, the Balkan Wars, which is another series of conflicts that the Turks lose. You can see they're on a kind of like a losing spell. Wait till they get to World War I. I'm sure they're going to lose again. Yeah. 1912–1913, the Balkan Wars, the Turks lose. They lose much of the rest of the area that they had. The Greeks will take over Macedonia. Albania will be created. You ready? 1913. So you got this Albanian independent country, 1913, and they will remain as an independent country, just like Bulgaria and Romania and so forth. Montenegro, right here, the little area of Montenegro, they will be briefly independent after this war, but then they will be joined in together with, which is the best fit? Montenegrins are Orthodox,
Okay.
Slavic.
Yeah.
They join in with the Serbs. Yeah. So you got the Serbs then expanding. Let me see if I got, that's not. The Serbs then expanding, so you got Montenegro. And then, of course, what about Kosovo? Where's that going to end up? Is the Albanians going to get that? Well, who's going to get Kosovo? Serbs are going to get that. Yeah. Okay? And write this down, because this leads up to World War I. The Serbs also want Bosnia. Now, this is a problem because can the Serbs take Bosnia from the Turks? No, the Serbs can't take Bosnia from the Turks because it's already been taken. Who took, Landon, who took Bosnia from the Turks? Look at the map. Who has control of Bosnia after the Turks lost it in 1878? Austria, very good. Austro-Hungarian Empire. Okay? And if you go back here, the Serbs over here are looking and going, we got fellow Serbs over there in Austria. They're not German. They're not Catholic. They want to be part of our country. I mean, it's like, so what's going to happen then? I mean, like, does anyone really care? I mean, does anyone have like a side? Who do the Russians seem to favor here in this particular issue? The Serbs. Okay? What do the Austrians want? They just want to they just want everyone to get along. Oh my gosh. And they don't want to give up the territory they have. They're the Austrian Empire. Who lives in the Austrian Empire? Everybody lives in the Austrian Empire. You got Slovaks, you got Slovenes, you got Hungarians, you got Czechs, you've got Poles, you've got Austrians, you got all kinds of people. So what difference does it make if you have a few Bosniaks and Serbs? You know, look at him. He's just coming down here. Write it down. 1914. Austro-Hungarian Archduke. You've heard of this guy before. Franz Ferdinand and his wife, Sophia. There they are. It's a lovely day. It's a summery day. It's June 28th, 1914. Papa, who's the emperor, is Franz Ferdinand, I think is his name. He's back in, Vienna ruling the country, but he's really old. I mean, the transition has really already kind of started to the son. And he's going down to Sarajevo, very important city. Where is Sarajevo? Oh, yeah, well, it is in what part of Yugoslavia? Actually, you can see it right here. It's right here, kind of mid-eastern half of Bosnia. So it's in Austrian-controlled territory. Who lives in Sarajevo? It's the biggest city in the Bosnian region. Who lives there? Bosniaks, Croats, Serbs. And some of them, just like in America, they intermarry. They're like, whatever, Do we have to have a Romeo and Juliet thing? Can't the Capulets and Montagues just get together and join together in one family? At the time, Sarajevo had quite a mix. You can see it right here. The white around Sarajevo, that indicates that there's no one majority ethnic identification or national identification, if you will. Who doesn't like the fact that this guy is coming down and trying to assert control and assert continual responsibility over that particular region? Do you remember the name of the Serb group that didn't like him? The Black Hand, remember that? And they sent down a whole bunch of assassins, and one of them missed his opportunity, and then he was sitting drinking coffee or something, and then the stupid car came by again. Talk about lack of security. And what happened then? Boom. They killed him. And then World War I. That's an entire unit. Look back at your notes. Seriously? Seriously. Then World War I. Did Serbia win World War I, or did the Turks win World War I? Let me see. The Serbs had the support of Russia, which actually lost World War I. Hashtag communists are coming. But the other allies, the British, the French, and the United States, won. So therefore, Serbia wins. Write it down. Serbia wins. And, dun-da-da-da, we get it right here. The first complete creation of Yugoslavia. What gets to be part of that? The Serbs get the previous territory that had been part of Austria, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia. They also get the Macedonian area. So they've got this one big, will they be a happy family? Well, we're going to talk about them more in the next episode, exactly. By the way, the assassination took place, if you haven't figured it out, on the 525th anniversary of the Battle of the Field of Blackbirds. Yeah, exactly. Very sensitive. Yeah. All right, very good.